Hey y'all, welcome back to Mountain Murder sometime this week.
I'm Heather.
And I'm Dylan.
Wow, you are jovial today.
I feel well rested.
Jovial, almost maniacal. I'm not quite sure.
Oh.
Yeah, just a few minutes ago, you were staring out the window.
Yeah.
Of our studio window, our front room. And I said, what are you looking at? And there were two folks in the road, like in their cars, talking. You said this bothers you. You were practicing being an old man.
A cranky old man.
Yeah. And you were like, it bothers me.
Yeah.
You wanted them to get away from your house.
Well, look, even though there's nobody else in sight, it's a little quiet neighborhood road. I don't think you have the right to block the throughway.
You don't.
For any reason, unless it's an emergency. Go double park in front of your house.
You wanted them to move it along.
Yeah, I was afraid they were going to get on the grass that's brown because it's winter.
Yeah.
But, I was worried about the ramifications of that during spring. Tire tracks, ruts.
I see.
Once a rut starts, it can very easily turn into a gully.
Okay.
You have no idea how the water's going to run, and you cannot control Mother Nature.
I feel very educated all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. We had some bulbs. Like I dumped out some of my plant pots the other day and was kind of using that soil on top of my flower bed, got a little shovel out, which is sort of breaking it up. Like, oh, okay, this will be some good topsoil, right? We had some bulbs and you just sort of threw them down and they're already starting to sprout.
I know.
I have no idea what those flowers are going to be.
Mother Nature is so amazing.
I love planting and growing and tending to things.
Oh,
it's very calming.
That season is almost upon us, and I understand why people can go spend all day out in their garden, or I don't know. I think it really just goes back to our ancestors and our evolutionary ways, just having your hands in the dirt.
I really can't wait to start some seedlings.
Yes.
Last year was really my first experience with seedlings. Turning those into little flowers, planting them, tending to them for months.
And you were such a proud plant mama.
I loved it. Yeah, I can't wait. Still like old people activities.
You're oh my God, they're growing.
I can't wait to plant my little flower garden again.
And what I noticed is all the flowers you did from seeds were so much more healthy and hardier than the ones that you buy from Lowe's or anywhere like that are already grown.
It's true.
And I suspect those have been modified some way, or them starting very fast in a forced way in like a greenhouse environment affected them in an adverse manner.
Well, I know I'm ready for the cold weather to end. I'm ready for planting. I'm ready for spring.
I'm ready for an excuse to, be like, I deserve this cold beer because I cut the grass. Yeah.
Always looking for an excuse. Dylan, we have a lot of true crime news to recrap.
Well, let's get to recrapping.
Have you heard of this cult-like group known as the Zizians?
Indeed, I have.
I've heard a little bit just around the edges of this group, but didn't know a whole lot about them. So I've got a bit of a timeline here that we can discuss this group and get to know more about them.
Yeah, from what I know, they went on a bit of a rampage, a deadly rampage.
Jack Lasota, 34, allegedly leads a group of a few dozen followers known as Zizians. He was arrested Sunday alongside Michelle Jaco, age 32, and Daniel Blank, age 26, on charges including trespassing and obstruction. Authorities say they are investigating at least 6 killings across the U.S. that are allegedly connected to members of this group, including a double homicide in Pennsylvania, a knife attack in California, and the shooting of a U.S. border guard in January.
Damn.
3 other alleged members of the group have already been charged with murder. This is wild, and it's a little scary to have this nationwide crime spree / killing spree with seemingly no motive other than just to do it.
Just anybody who gets in their way when they're in this kind of a heightened state could be a victim.
Lasota, a transgender woman, is alleged to be the leader of this group. She earned a degree in computer science from the University of Alaska at Fairbanks in 2013. And according to her blog, moved to the San Francisco area about 3 years later. So sometime in 2016. There, she applied for a series of jobs at tech companies and startups. She even had a brief internship with NASA and began to associate with these people who were involved in the rationalist movement, which was an intellectual trend popular in Silicon Valley that emphasizes the power of the human mind to see clear truth, eliminate bias and bad thinking, and improve individuals and society.
Oh.
Stop that bad thinking.
Yeah, I think I have good thinking.
I'm just curious what qualifies as bad thinking.
Well, I really feel like that could be subjective, by each individual.
Lesotho began blogging using the alias Ziz, but soon fell out of the mainstream rationalists because her writing begun kind of like spinning off in these really bizarre directions. The blog included posts of thousands of words, blending Lesotho's personal experiences, theories about technology and philosophy, and then esoteric comments about pop culture, along with computer coding and dozens of other subjects. So it sounds like this blog was just kind of like all over the place.
Oh my gosh. She was being accused of an irrational thought.
She was not focused. You know, I think with a blog, it needs to be more focused. Is this a lifestyle blog? Is this like your personal journey blog?
Well, that sounds like exactly how my brain would have. If my brain had a blog, it would be just like this.
Yes.
Yeah.
I got to stop for a moment and tell our listeners what you did last night.
What did I do?
I wanted to wring your neck.
Oh, no. Look.
This is an example. Okay. So I've been on Dylan lately because it's like having another child in the house. Right? And eventually I'm going to housebreak you.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll take that as a challenge.
We're almost 7 years in to our marriage, cohabitating, and you're almost there. Okay. I've just about got you whipped into shape, but not quite. We go to the movies last night. We saw The Monkey, which I recommend. I thought it was a pretty funny, like dark horror comedy type of film.
Yeah, I thought it was good.
Comedy, right? Yeah. It didn't get great reviews, and at first I was like, oh, do we really want to see that? But it ended up being pretty great. I have to say, what is the movie Heart Eyes? That was a big shiny turd.
That movie was, in our opinion, not good at all.
It was fucking terrible. We didn't even see the end. We walked out because it was so bad.
We thought that was the end, then they tried to do a twist, and it was so ridiculous.
And this is what kills me is I thought the Monkey was hilarious. Like, there were some really hilarious parts, and we were kind of like laughing and giggling to ourselves, you know? And then it got terrible reviews. But then Hard Eyes is fucking horrible movie. There's no redeeming qualities of this film at all. It was so bad we left before it even ended. And it's gotten glowing reviews and people are raving about it. And I just don't understand what is happening. Are we wrong?
I never think I'm wrong.
Yeah, me either.
But yeah, on to your story.
Okay.
Because I didn't mean to do that.
So we go to the movies and we're cheapskates. And I will admit that we always stop at the store at the little pharmacy / retail store. Starts with a W. I'm not going to name it. So we stop at the Greens that's near our house and we get, the little boxes of theater candy.
It's movie candy.
We get movie candy because we're too cheap to pay like $10 for a box of candy at the movie theater. So we just buy our $1.50 box.
That, and plus that, honestly, I think they have a limited selection of candies at the movies nowadays. And I remember back in the day, they had like a whole damn counter of all the candies.
They did.
Of all different types and sizes.
You're pretty limited in what you can get now. So we always smuggle in candy. I have my big bag. What's in mom's bag is like Dylan's favorite thing to determine. So anyway, we snuggle in our candy because we're cheapskates. And I've got a full bag of candy. And not just candy, but like Dylan's got a soda in there. I mean, this bag is so fucking slam packed. I can barely unzip the bag.
And it wasn't your big bag.
And it's not, it was my like medium sized bag, right? This little shoulder kind of bag. Little crossbody shoulder bag. So I'm like, what the fuck, dude? You get up to the counter. We show them our little movie pass. They scan it on our phone. And then Dylan orders an icy. Motherfucker does not have his wallet.
It was in the car.
I have my so he's trying to make me dig out my card out of my bag that's stuffed full of candy and soda and his shit in front of the movie guy.
Yeah, and your bag was as soon as I said it, I knew I'd messed up. Honestly, I'm starting to grow as a person emotionally, and my emotional toolbox is getting new tools in it. And as soon as I said it, I was like, "Shit." And your bag is busting at the seams. You have it over your shoulder. You kind of don't even want people to look at your bag.
No, I was like,
because it's pretty obvious.
To you, like, oh my gosh, this bag is insane. Like, I'm embarrassed to even take this in.
Pretty obvious that we have a bunch of drinks and candy in your bag, and you turned and looked at me like, what the fuck? Because I needed your card to pay for the icy, which is $9 for a fucking icy, but they're so good.
Yeah, and you order an icy, and you've got a drink in my bag.
Yeah, well, that was the backup drink.
So I'm like, so practical, Dylan.
And she's like, oh, I have to go get my card, and had to go hide out of sight, dig in her bag full of snacks that were being illegally transported and smuggled into the movie. Contraband, essentially. And then comes back and gives me her card, and the guy's looking at me like he knew. He knew what was going on. The jig was up.
I know. And then I'm just like, what is wrong with you?
We're going to have to wear the glasses and mustache as disguises next time we go to the theater. But thank you, because the icy was one of the better batches that they've made. I think it was this year's icy. It was very high quality, and we shared it. And then the movie was good, so we made it, baby.
I hate you. I hate you.
Oh my gosh.
So at one point during a long diatribe about the TV series The Office, artificial intelligence, and some other subjects, Ziz wrote, quote, I realized that I was no longer able to stand people, not even rationalists anymore, and I would live the rest of my life completely alone, hiding my reaction to anyone it was useful to interact with. I had given up my ability to see beauty, so I could only see evil.
Oh, so in one discussion, you're talking about a long-winded discussion about the Office and AI. In fact, yeah, it makes total sense.
Again, I'm no professional mental health person here, but this almost just sounds like someone spiraling in the throes of some kind of mental health crisis, right?
Possibly. Well, it's rambling. I mean, it's just, it's non-cohesive.
Other themes included veganism and anarchism. They seem to go hand in hand,
It's true.
You got to have your squash to overthrow the government. In 2019, Lesota and 3 others were arrested while holding a protest outside of an event that was held by the Rationalist Organization. The last post on her blog date from around this time. And then over the next few years, Lesota and others would move around the U.S., according to reports, at one point living on a boat and later staying on property owned by others in California and North Carolina. In 2022, a warrant was issued when Lesota failed to show up for a court hearing related to the protest outside that Rationalist Organization meeting. But her lawyer at the time stated that she was, quote, now deceased after a boating accident in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Damn.
There was an obituary noting that Lesota loved, quote, adventure, friends, family, music, blueberries, biking, computer games, and animals. Even went as far as appearing in in an Alaskan newspaper.
So it's a fake obituary.
A fake obituary. But the story was wrong because Lesota was still alive.
But she does love all the things listed.
Jessica Taylor, an AI researcher who says she knew several of the group members, told the Associated Press that Lesota and the Zizians stretched their rationalist beliefs to justify breaking laws. She said, quote, stuff like thinking it's reasonable to avoid paying rent and defend oneself from being evicted.
Now, how is that a rational thought? Or an irrational line of thinking?
And there's no strict legal definition of such a group as this. Several of the Zizians attributes align with popular cultural conceptions of the term cult. So now they are being described as the Zizian Cult.
Well, yeah, look, it doesn't matter. I've dabbled in, learned about a lot of cults over the years, many decades, but they have earmarks. They have, and all cults are the same in these core ways. Well, no matter where they began, who's running them, the theme. All cults have a theme, in my opinion. None of that matters. They have these, you could say top 5 qualities about them.
Well, the group does seem to share some unorthodox opinions or viewpoints. That in itself wouldn't necessarily open them up to a cult label, but then there's like this leadership figure Ziz, and then there are still some like alleged acts of violence that have motivated the group, and there's not a lot of certainty at this time about the relationships between certain group members or even what might have motivated them to act so violently.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a lot. So not long after that obituary was published, Lesotho resurfaced along with some other group members in Vallejo, California, which is just north of San Francisco. Several members were living in vans and trucks on land owned by a man named Curtis Lind. At some point, the Zizians allegedly stopped paying rent, and Lind sued them for, to evict them. But the dispute escalated in November of 2022. Lind was attacked, stabbed 50 times, and blinded in one eye.
Damn.
In an act of what police would later say is self-defense, he fired a gun which killed Emma Borhanian, a former Google employee who was one of the other Zizians who had previously been arrested at that rationalist protest.
Wait, he lived?
It's a miracle, man.
He stabbed 50 times and in the eye?
He's a wizard.
Damn.
2 other members, Suri Deo and Somni Logencia, were arrested and charged with attempting to murder Lynn. They remained in prison awaiting trial. Lesotho was also at the scene of the attack, but was not charged with the crime. The following month, 2 parents of a Zizian member were killed in a small town in Pennsylvania. Richard Jaco, 71, and his wife Rita, 69, were found shot in the head. They are parents of member Michelle Jaco, who was briefly held by police but not charged with the crime.
Damn.
Lesotho was arrested and charged with obstructing law enforcement and disorderly conduct in connection with that incident. So despite the links to those 2 attacks, the group mostly flew under the radar without receiving much publicity until earlier this year. On January 17th, Lind, the California landlord who had been attacked by the group, allegedly, was killed. Vallejo police say he was stabbed to death by an assailant wearing a black beanie and a mask.
Damn.
Police later charged Maximilian Snyder with the murder and alleged that Snyder killed Lind in order to stop him from testifying during that attempted murder trial.
Was it like a billionaire? Maximilian?
I don't know.
What a name.
That was followed just a few days later by the killing of a U.S. Border Patrol agent on the other side of the country.
But it was the northern border, if I'm not mistaken.
2 Zizians, Teresa Youngblood and Felix Backholt, were pulled over by this U.S. Border Patrol agent named David Mayland near the Canadian border, in Vermont. So you're right, Dylan. It was the northern border. A firefight ensued. Backholt, a German citizen who also went by the name Ophelia, was killed in the shootout along with Mayland. Youngblood, what's a strange name, was also known as Milo, was wounded and later arrested on firearms charges. The shooting led to a wider hunt for members of the group after police said the gun used to kill Mayland was bought by Michelle Jaco. It's a lot to keep up with.
No, it is.
That's why it's been sort of tricky to understand what is exactly going on with this cult, because it's a lot of people in a lot of places.
All over the country.
Doing a lot of shit.
It's a lot.
After the Vermont shootout, police in Pennsylvania said they had uncovered a new bit of evidence about the shooting of Jaco's parents, and Lesotho was wanted for failing to appear at several court hearings. The whereabouts of the pair were unknown until Sunday, when they were arrested with a fellow group member, Daniel Blank, in Maryland. A police report said a resident of Frostburg, which is about 160 miles northwest of Washington, D.C., had called police saying that he wanted 3 suspicious people off his property after they asked if they could camp on his land for a month. I'm not going to let random people camp on my land. I'm sorry.
I would not. I just wouldn't be comfortable.
Maryland State Police said the trio were charged with trespassing and obstruction, and that Lesotho and Jaco were additionally charged with weapons violations. All 3 were denied bail. A lawyer for Lesotho, Daniel McGargle, declined to comment on the arrest, but instead sent a statement to the media saying that he, Quote, I urge members of the press and the public to refrain from speculation and premature conclusions.
McGargle?
Yeah.
What? There's so many strange names in the story.
There are. And this news report I have here comes from combination of information from the BBC News and the AP, the Associated Press. So, very, very strange story. And I think it will be, I'm kind of fascinated to see how this unfolds and to learn more about this group.
Right.
Because it really does sound like a cult.
Well, it does. It sounded like you had a hierarchy, you had a leader, and people, it sounded like some kind of weird plans being played out, you know what I mean? Kind of moving around. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's very strange.
Well, it's so strange because it's like nothing really makes sense or has a connection. Like people aren't being targeted. There's not a specific motive. It almost seems like just anyone who got in the way of the group members was killed.
Right.
So that's scary stuff. Scary stuff. Dylan, we have an update in the Idaho 4 killings. A judge has denied multiple motions by Brian Kohberger's defense team to toss out evidence for his trial, including DNA evidence and digital records.
Now, the DNA evidence you're talking about is them finding the DNA of 2 additional males.
Well,
right?
Let's get into this. Kohberger, as we probably all know, is charged with murders of Mount Vernon native Ethan Chapin, Zana Kernodle, Madison Mogan, and Kaylee Goncalves, who were stabbed to death in the early morning hours of November 13th, 2022, at a rental home near the University of Idaho. Now, according to court documents, Kohberger's defense argued that his rights were violated when DNA was taken from the crime scene and then analyzed using investigative genetic genealogy.
How's that a violation of your rights?
I don't know. On Wednesday, the Ada County judge ruled that wasn't the case. The documents state that there is no reasonable expectation of privacy and identity, and his team, quote, did not prove that his DNA was tested for anything other than identifying purposes, and, quote, even if the DNA analysis revealed sensitive personal details, there is no reasonable expectation of privacy in a crime scene where there's DNA.
Yeah, and of course...
I mean, just the fact that they even tried this is silly.
Well, he is a genius. Right.
Yeah.
So he must be directing his defense team. And, of course, one of the big pieces of evidence is the knife sheath left at the crime scene with his DNA on it, which I think is, if indeed that is the case, that's very telling. That's kind of hard to explain away. And then another thing was two DNA samples from 2 other males, which me and Heather discussed. It's a bunch of college kids.
It's been a rental for college students for many years.
Right.
So we're probably talking hundreds,
thousands,
maybe even thousands
of kids in and out.
Young people who've passed in and out of this home over the years. It was a known party house, according to community members.
Oh, yeah. People like me, the crotchety old man. Talking about they're always up there making noise, a hooping and a hollering.
Somebody showed me their titties the other day. Now, that part wasn't a problem, but...
I wasn't even trying to see titties that day, but there they was.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just making a joke about the titties. But, yeah, I mean, it sounds like this place was popping.
Right. And hell, I mean, that's how it goes around college kids for the most part,
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so I think it would be, and I guess it depends on where that DNA sample was taken from. The relevancy of that, or you be able to really use that to obviously make an argument of reasonable doubt that it could be someone else, making a case like that.
Well, the court also denied motions to suppress digital evidence that was gathered from Kohberger's accounts with Google, Apple, Amazon, and his cell phone data, stating the search warrants to obtain the information. Police also said that Kohberger's phone pinged near the victim's home over a dozen times before the murders, which, that was kind of information we knew pretty quickly into the investigation. Kohberger has not entered a plea, and his trial is expected for June, though it has been pushed back several times over the years. The death penalty could be on the table for him if he is found guilty.
So here's the thing, in this day and age, or especially with a case, I'm pretty sure this case would have been sensational even back in the day before all the technology. And it's so publicized. How do you ever find an impartial jury? Because they could tomorrow throw out the knife sheath, his digital footprints that claimed he'd been near the home a bunch, kind of stalking or in the area. If you throw all that out, we all know about it. Who doesn't know about that? You know what I mean? And it's going to be in your mind.
I just don't see why you would think that should be thrown out. I mean, as a defense, I know, but I'm just saying, like, well, what makes you think they're going to throw that out?
Well, yeah,
I mean, that's pretty key evidence in this case.
I would just petition the court. See, I could be a defense lawyer. I would just petition the court to throw out all damning evidence against my client.
I mean, that's what they're asking. This guy just thinks he's so smart that he's going to get away with this. And at the end of the day, I just don't think he's that smart.
Well, the crime, I still don't understand, honestly, how you go room to room killing people, multiple victims of 4, and no one hears anything. You know, I mean, you can say, hey, they've been out, it was late, or, they're young people.
Well,
you don't always investigate every noise.
There's been a lot of discussion about the roommate, what the roommate heard.
Well, you see the strange person.
Saw. I mean, that's a discussion for like a whole other, because I mean, we could really get into that, and I think we probably both have a lot to say, and the public has a lot to, kind of theorize about that. But it is very strange.
But I mean, it's a college house, so it's probably not the first time, the roommate would open a door and see someone she didn't instantly recognize leaving. So, I mean, I guess if you really look at it like that, it kind of makes sense to a degree. But I mean, you don't hear any hollering, screaming, or nothing. I mean, it's such a strange crime.
Yes.
But it was sloppy, right? It was. I mean, you leave your sheath of your knife. I mean, it's pretty dumb.
It's amateur hour.
The whole thing was amateur hour.
Well, here again, I think Kohberger is one of those people who thinks that he's so fucking smart, and he's always the smartest guy in the room, and he's just so superior. But at the end of the day, he's a dumbass. He thinks he's going to commit this crime and get away with it.
Well, narcissists like that.
And just at the end of the day, though, he's stupid because he pretty much gets caught like
instantly,
yeah.
Well, I think narcissists like that, they think that they are smart and they got all the bases covered. But if something happens, they think that they can actually talk or figure their way out of it.
Yeah.
Because they truly do think they are the smartest person in the room at all times.
I mean, the guy's no criminal mastermind.
My gosh. No.
This is interesting. I know we've discussed this move in the state of South Carolina to implement a firing squad as a choice for folks on death row between the lethal injection, the firing squad.
The death row inmate can choose?
They can choose, yes.
Oh, I'll be like, I want both. See what? I'm throwing them a curveball.
Well, a South Carolina inmate on death row has chosen to be executed by the firing squad, Dylan. Brad Sigmund's execution is scheduled for March 7th for the 2001 baseball bat killings of his ex-girlfriend's parents in Greenville County, and this is according to the Associated Press and USA Today. So according to these news outlets, after killing David and Gladys Lark, Sigmund kidnapped his ex-girlfriend at gunpoint, and although he shot at her after she escaped his moving vehicle, so she seems like she jumped out of the car, she did survive. If carried out, Sigmund will be the first person in South Carolina to be executed by firing squad after the state Supreme Court made it legal in July of 2024. A South Carolina trial court had previously issued an injunction preventing the state from carrying out executions by firing squad or the electric chair in 2022 after it had been legalized in 2021. Sigmund will also be the first person to be executed by firing squad in the U.S. since Ronnie Gardner, who chose the method 15 years ago, which was all the way back in 2010, which that makes me feel really old because I thought 2010 was just like a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I know. I missed the close.
Now, according to the Death Penalty Information Center, the execution method involves a person being bound to a chair with a black hood placed over their head. They, I guess, standing in an enclosure about 20 feet away, they have 5 armed shooters who have .30 caliber rifles loaded with a single round. The organization states that one shooter is given blank rounds.
Just one?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was opposite. I thought there was one live bullet and 4 blanks, and then the shooters never know if their bullet actually killed them.
Yes.
But it's 4 live rounds and 1 blank?
That's what it seems like, yeah.
Wow. They're going to make sure they get them.
Now, according to Sigmund's public defender, a guy named Gerald Bo King, one of the reasons that Sigmund chose execution by firing squad was because he was friends with 3 men in South Carolina who had been executed using the lethal injection method, which he described as a prolonged death where the men suffered because some of those men remained alive strapped to a gurney for more than 20 minutes waiting for this injection to work.
Well, yeah, maybe they shouldn't have killed people, dude. You know, I don't get why.
Allegedly, this guy Sigmund saw the firing squad as his only choice.
I don't understand why it's so hard to kill someone. Like, you know, because the state always has all this.
You mean like execute them? Because
yes.
you say, I don't know what's so hard to kill somebody.
Well,
and I'm
yes,
like, that makes it sound like you're pro-murder or something.
No, to execute.
Okay.
Why is it so difficult to find a method that's straightforward, you know, quickly applied? And I'm not saying it should be, you know, you should aim for torturous, but there's always this morality tied up in it. And I just don't understand that because you have to do something pretty fucking heinous to be on death row, right?
I think beating 2 people to death with a baseball bat is pretty heinous.
It is.
Talk
right.
about absolute suffering.
Yes.
That is a brutal death. And this guy was not thinking of his victims.
No.
And their prolonged suffering.
So,
I don't know. Like I've said on here a few times, you know, my opinion of the death penalty has kind of changed over the years.
Well,
and I'm sorry, but if you beat 2 people to death with a baseball bat,
2 elderly people,
you deserve to be condemned to death
and taken out of society, away from society. You do deserve that. You know?
I mean, if you're really thinking about it, taxpayers have already paid this guy's way. They've paid for his lawyer. They've paid for these this extended, you know, years in prison. So, you know, should we really be like discussing what's the you know, least horrible way to put someone down? I mean,
what's the thing? You had friends that got this injection, and then I'm guessing you heard they survived for X amount of time before they died and all this. Well, don't kill people. Don't end up on death row, and you don't have to worry about this. I mean, it's not that hard. And yes, I know. Oh gosh, it could be an innocent person killed. Yeah, I get that. But
when there's conclusive evidence that someone was involved and they are given the death penalty,
why is that not
and
fast
they
tracked?
committed this crime, exactly. I mean, all these appeals and exhausting and years, it's bogus.
It is bogus.
And people know they can commit a crime and then they're just going to go stay in prison for years and years and years before they, you know,
and some of these people
consequences are ever actually carried out.
Yeah, and they don't mind. They don't mind. They can make a life behind prison for themselves and be, you know, have some kind of a life.
Isn't death row like you're not in the general population? You're aren't you isolated?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's good or bad, but you know, I think it is its own section because obviously they would look at you like a very high risk inmate.
I've heard tale of folks who are in the general population that will commit a murder to get put on death row just to get out of that situation of being in like the general prison population.
Yeah, gym pop.
Yeah. So I don't know. It doesn't sound like it's fun. Either way.
If you're going to have it instituted, use the death penalty as a deterrent. It needs to be carried out efficiently. I mean, agree with it or don't.
And in a cost-effective manner.
In a cost-effective manner. And I just don't understand why we wring our hands and can't. I mean, it's not. I mean, even if you medically do it, can't you just. Why do you got to have this big cocktail? I mean, is there a more efficient way of making someone's heart stop? I mean, it seems like there's a ton of ways out there, medically even. Why do you got to do this big cocktail of these specialized whatevs?
You could just hire that guy from Indiana Jones to reach in, rip your heart out, hold
Dude.
it up, and sing like, what does he say? Kalima!
Yes, you could get that guy. Or I was thinking you could get some like a stable of serial killers and just put them in the room with a serial killer and just let nature take its course.
Interesting.
They're not going to have any kind of ethical qualms about it. They're going to sleep fine that night.
Welcome to Dylan's Death Dome.
Yeah.
All right, Dylan, this is a very scary thought. Philadelphia District Attorney Larry Krasner and Police Commissioner Kevin announced charges for 12 people who were said to be involved with the homicide of a juvenile, along with 12 other non-fatal shootings and violent crimes dating from 2021 to 2023.
Damn.
12 people. Is this a gang? Officials said they were associated with street gangs in active South Philadelphia. I mean, you got to be a gang. You got 12 people going around committing these kinds of crimes.
Well, that's a group at the very least.
Well, they are kids, according to the district attorney. Young people, quote, doing horrific things. All but one of the kids are locked up at this time and being held on a bail as high as $12.5 million. So let's break down the numbers a little bit. The accusations include murder, 26 people injured in non-fatal shootings, and carjackings. Police say shootings were being committed by members of 3 rival gangs with members as young as Little League baseball teams.
Damn.
The district attorney says these shooters are getting younger, the shootings are no longer neighborhood-based, and the guns that they're using are from illicit gun trade, the straw purchasing and trafficking we've been fighting against. Javon Sullivan is 16 and wanted for a shooting when he was just 14 years old. That was 2 years ago on the 700 block of Jackson Street in Philadelphia. Just one of many mapped out of this long list of shootings that began 4 years ago in an almost nonstop retaliation mini-war, as it is being described by law enforcement.
Yeah, and you know what the number one thought in these kids doing this crazy shit in their mind is? I'm a juvenile. They'll go easy on me.
One of the Philadelphia police detectives, Kelly Gallagher, said, quote, a lot of these young kids think it's a game. On social media, they compare it to a basketball game, and how that works is for every shooting victim, they say they have a point. I mean, honestly, they view it as just a game to them.
Okay.
That's, again.
It's terrifying.
That's not okay. But it does seem that it's game over for many of those arrested because, they may not see the outside world for a long, long time, especially with the astronomical bails that have been set in proportion to the mayhem that they're charged with.
Oh, there's very few regular individuals or families that can overcome a $13 million bail.
One of the 19-year-olds involved, Eli Simmons, is charged with shooting 16 people in 9 different shootings starting when he was 15 years old.
Yeah.
Prosecutors say they'd brag about being in a gang called the Cinders, and its killing and shootings and videos help lead to their own identification and arrests.
Dumbass kids. But they're doing this super scary stuff. And you should be tried as an adult. I don't know what to say. God.
The Cinders were known to use a model or slogan in many of their music videos, raps, and other social media posts. And that slogan was, quote, if you want to join the Cinders, get a body, then you gang with us.
Okay. Yeah, and one of their hit singles was Yeah, I Did It. And they went on to recount the crime and the location of where they did it.
And if we're looking at a big picture point of view, Dylan, 31 victims. One of those is a 2-year-old. I mean, that's a lot of trauma served on those blocks in those neighborhoods, among those families. This is disastrous. It's catastrophic.
It is.
And to think that these crimes are being carried out by minors.
Well, no, you have these communities that have plenty of problems, right? Same problems that, they're dealing with all this different stuff. And then to have this kind of mayhem unleashed on you from internal forces, your youth, your young people of that community. I mean, it's just a crazy mindset. And I get that
Well, it's
people.
like terrorism.
It is terrorism.
Because you're living in fear every day.
It is. It's a terrorized neighborhood completely. You change what you do is much like the way people were reacting to the DC sniper case that we covered. People were scared, changing their their daily schedules and their lives completely around this fear. And this is this is terroristic. There's no way around it.
Now, moving on, Dylan. Diddy's lawyer quits his defense team and says, quote, "Under no circumstances can I continue."
Damn, you must have got a file or something.
Anthony Rico did not provide a reason for his request. He just wrote, quote, "Under no circumstances can I continue to effectively serve as counsel for Sean Combs, according to an affidavit." A judge will need to grant Rico's motions before he's officially removed from the case. Combs would still have 5 other attorneys defending him in his federal sex trafficking case, including his lead counsel, Mark Anganifilo. In the affidavit, Rico says he did not want to divulge information protected by attorney-client privilege. When explaining why the request was so brief, he did note that he came to his decision after speaking with the lead attorney, so he does not want to represent Combs.
But he's going to have 5 other lawyers left.
Yeah.
Do you think he's going to get out of this?
No. I don't. Do you?
No.
I don't think so.
But I also don't think that they just became aware of what Diddy was doing. I think for whatever reason, he pissed off the wrong person and they decided it was his time to be dethroned. Now that I believe completely.
Yeah.
There's just too many people sounding alarms. All kinds of people, like anybody that would listen, saying that what a terrible, horrible person he was. And that he's doing all these things and all these people involved. People were talking.
Well, it's like the Weinstein thing.
Yeah.
It's like this hidden secret. Everybody knows. Everybody's talking about it. And yet it's somehow allowed to persist for decades.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know how that works.
It's messed up.
I think this happens on a smaller scale, too, when you look at local crimes. There can be someone at a church or a school that is, found out to be like a pedophile. And, there was talk for years and, nobody did anything about it. Look at what's his name? Sandusky?
Yeah.
It's just like a lot of people know. Or that gymnastics doctor.
Yeah.
Can't think of that guy's name.
There were rumors around Sandusky for a very long time.
Yeah, well, there's rumors around a lot of people for a very long time, even in small towns. And for whatever reason, they just get away with it and no one will come forward. And then, after 20 or 30 years of them victimizing multiple people, finally something's done about it.
I wish they would go
This is just a larger scale, someone who's famous and known. But I think this happens in small towns everywhere all the time.
No, I agree. I just wish they would go after human exploitation and child molesting and all that as hardcore as they do drugs.
Yeah, I agree.
I do. Because I think you could make a much larger impact on stopping that and helping people than you do on the alleged drug war. Which at the end of the day is consenting people wanting to do a substance. That's really the core of it that creates everything else. At what point do you just try something new? But I just don't get how many stories. I heard one just the other day again. There certainly needs to be reform in this arena on the GPS tracking of a sex offender. I heard another Dateline story. I forget exactly. I've listened to so much lately. This guy was going around, spending time around schools, daycares, all these places he's not supposed to be for obvious reasons, and then it goes on to commit a crime and kill a little girl, all while wearing a GPS tracker, to go along with his alleged intense probation or whatever he's on. But the not one time did the parole officer pull the data and look at it.
That happens all the time.
Because he wasn't directed to. It's not, it's not how it's outlined or blah this and that. It's bullshit.
I agree.
We only use that as a after event tool to blah this and that. That's fucking bullshit. With all this technology nowadays, you don't even have to have a fucking human pull the stuff and look at it, right? You can have an algorithm that's like, oh, dinging in the algorithm. Oh, he's not supposed to be there. Boom, a report.
Alerting you, yes.
A report on the damn probation officer's phone, an alert.
An alert that comes in your email or something.
I mean,
Absolutely.
dude, it's so ridiculous. So many extra victims, end up being terrible things happening to them, and it can be avoided. I mean, it's freaking stupid.
I agree, Dylan.
God.
Well, thank you for sitting down with me today to recrap some true crime, some crime news.
There's a lot going on. You were starting the new Netflix docuseries on the Gabby Petito murder. Yeah.
Yeah? Are you looking forward to finishing that?
Well, I don't know. That one's always, I feel like I know that case. I know enough about it, if you will. I'm no expert. And I know many people were kind of caught up in following along with that as it unfurled in the beginning, just because she had a social media presence. People were already had kind of an audience, if you will. But I think I will, just out of curiosity, maybe
see
watch
if there's anything new.
Yeah, and I've never seen much. I'm sure they're going to have video and maybe see a little more from Gabby herself, which I find a little bit interesting. Yeah, I thought she got kind of lost as the victim, and it's just it's a story that involves kind of a tumultuous relationship and all this and that, and
these families,
these
that
kind of
seem
competing,
to be kind of warring with each other a little bit.
Right, and I
her
certainly,
family's desperate for information. His family seems to just sort of like block them, not want to communicate. Now you have like these lawsuits. I mean, there's just a lot of elements to the case that I think intrigue people.
Yeah, and I certainly think that Brian's parents were wrong. They did things that were wrong, legally and criminally wrong, after this happened. Whatever happened between him and Gabby. I think they acted wrong, and just no matter what, they supported their son, right? And I just don't think that's right.
I did read an interview recently, and I don't remember which publication, I'm sorry, but it was with Brian Laundrie's sister. I believe her name is Cassie or Cassandra Cassie. She has kind of openly, kind of come out and I guess spoken with the press about her feelings about the case, and she's estranged from her parents now. It seems that she also agrees with you, Dylan, that his parents had this kind of active role there in the end.
Yeah.
And they were dishonest and they weren't cooperating, and she's like very hurt by what her parents did, just because she's like, Gabby was a person in our life. They considered her like a daughter. She was like a sister to me. Like, we thought they were going to be married. She was going to be part of our family. She was living in the house with my parent. I mean, this was not like just some girl he met and they didn't know her that well or whatever. I mean, she was a big part of their daily lives. And then they kind of went on to support their son and not show much empathy or compassion for Gabby or Gabby's parents.
No.
So, even their own daughter has taken a step back from them. All right. Well, once you finish that, you'll have to let us know how it is.
I will. I certainly will.
Okay. Dylan, anything else you'd like to say before we wrap up?
Well, I would just like to let our listeners know that I hope this podcast finds them happy, fed, and safe.
Oh, God. Can we tell them what happened to you?
What?
I got to tell them, Dylan. Poor Dylan had the worst Friday at work. Just a terrible day.
I don't think people even understand all the parts of that bad day.
But the irony is, you spent all Friday. Say it for us.
Sticky. Oh, yeah, that's the key element. So without saving you, time and stuff, I was just forced to go work all day in a situation where I was being exposed to something that was sticky. It was everywhere.
You said it was like a lubricant or
It was.
something?
It turns out it was a glue.
It was a glue.
Yes, it was an adhesive. Someone had punctured a toad on one of the trailers. It'd gotten every fucking where, including all over the piece of equipment I use outside, moving trailers, and it was everywhere. And I'm just like,
Hashtag freight industry really fun.
I'm like, what's happening right now? Like,
And you said this happened like right off the bat. So from
I come into it.
So at like 2 a.m.
Yeah.
You start off work.
Right.
Sticky as hell.
Yeah, so I come in and there you can see something's kind of happening. Some of the night crew's still there. They should already be gone, and they're trying to address this spill. And they don't. Here's the thing about it, they don't have anything to work with. Which
you said
is,
there's not really any like PPE.
There's not a good. There's no PPE. There's no material handling materials.
I don't know how this is legal.
To clean, to start containing, or to minimize spread, or any of this. No protocols. So this shit's every fucking where. And then, they're just like, well, oh gosh, that sucks. But there's nothing to clean stuff with. There's nothing to wipe stuff down. I'm like, dude. So I'm all day in this situation.
And we know you hate being sticky.
And
even though you say sticky at least once every podcast.
No. Well, maybe every other. No, but see, I do have a thing.
So you manifested being sticky.
I think it's almost like a sensory thing. It's beyond, I just don't like it. It's like it does something to me. Like it's bad. It affects me in a bad way. I can't take it.
I know you were pitiful when I finally spoke to you on the phone. I could tell you were so defeated.
Yeah.
And then you were like, I'm not, because I was like, are you okay? And you're like, I'm not okay.
No.
And I was like, oh my gosh, what's the matter? And you're like, I'm sticky. It was, I didn't want to laugh, but it was also pretty funny.
Jesus.
Looking back, Dylan, it was pretty funny. I was like, we have to tell our listeners that you finally got sticky. You've been asking for it. Talk about being sticky all the time. Bitch, you sticky.
And I'm afraid it's still going to be sticky when I get back.
Oh,
so
gosh. I
can't
hope
wait.
Not.
Yeah. That's awesome.
We'll have to get you some like gear.
I'm taking my own fucking cleaning products, okay?
Can you just wear one of those like plastic suits?
Oh, God, it comes with its own problem. Like a Tyvek suit?
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess, but that comes with a whole nother bunch of issues for a large guy like me.
Then you'd be like sticking to stuff?
No, then I'd be like a freaking turkey in a roaster bag in the oven.
Yeah.
That's why I can't wear like those full body rain suits, because I get just as wet because my fat ass is sweating on the inside. It just doesn't work for me.
Yeah, it sounds sexy.
I have to be breathable.
Oh, gosh.
I need flow.
Ew.
Yeah.
Somehow you managed to gross me out every episode.
All right.
This is my life. All right. Thanks for tuning in to this recap. And we'll be back probably tomorrow.
We're going to be back tomorrow. We're going to do our best.
Or Monday with our new episode.
And Heather's searching for a lost episode right now. She finds it.
I found it. I already posted it.
We're going to drop that little extra. It's not extra. It's from last week.
Okay. Bye, Dylan.
Bye.